This is Get to Know Your District here on Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert. On the far side of the screen is Jason Davis, but we are very pleased to welcome founder and president of AV Alta, new team this year to Antelope Valley, California. Welcome, John. Thank you for joining us here on Get to Know Your District here on Morning Kickaround.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome to get you on the show, John. And obviously, your team has made some waves in their first year. I mean, that Open Cup run was very fun. We obviously were following along with some of the dramatics. I think a lot of people are sort of like, oh, there's a place called Antelope Valley. Where is that? Give us a sense of why this is a place that needed a soccer team and what you guys are doing there in California.
Yeah, thanks so much. And that's exactly right. It is a place that needed a soccer team, and I think you could say that about another couple hundred markets in this country, I think, which is where the real growth is going to be. And it's going to be so much fun at these, not of Division I level. Antelope Valley is in Los Angeles County, which is a little known fact, the northernmost part of LA County. LA County is 70 miles across. And it's what we refer to as the high desert. So it's about 2,500 feet altitude. It's a desert. It's cold at night. It's hot in the day. This is a place that was historically aerospace and still is aerospace, but it's a little bit overlooked and a little bit forsaken by LA. And frankly, a little bit, LA kind of looks down their nose at the Antelope Valley. However, 500,000 people, 50% Latino, no professional sports of any kind, no college sports of any kind, and huge market for soccer, tons of talent that nobody's scouting. And they had an empty minor league baseball stadium. And so my pitch to the city was convert the stadium to soccer specific, and I'll bring a team. And they said, okay.
Oh, that's pretty incredible. And just for the viewers' knowledge, you've hit the ground running on the field. You've been undefeated since the beginning of May. So pretty incredible to be racking up the wins and the results such as that. But kind of tell us, how long of a lead-in was this to get here to 2025?
854 days.
So you're aware of it.
I sent an email cold to the Parks and Recs Department of City of Lancaster, California. So the Antelope Valley is Lancaster and Palmdale. Those are the two big cities. But then the whole surrounding area is about 500,000. I sent an email cold to the City of Lancaster on October 22nd, 2022. And we broke ground we broke ground in August of 24, and we kicked off March 18th, 25. Opened the stadium and played our first US Open Cup game. And then we had our first inaugural home match in League One on April 5th. So incredible speed, and a credit to the City of Lancaster, which is unique in every respect, but they're very pro-business. They're very pro-community. And the mayor was on board, and they just got this thing done. It's pretty incredible story, actually.
Now, John, I think this is a classic example, like a prototypical example of why USL thought there was room for another league below their championship level, below the second division level. And we can maybe talk about your ambitions and what AV Alta can be in the future here in a moment. But I would assume that if there was no USL League One, there are other options, and I'm sure that those came up too. But this seems like a perfect place for a market of this size, brand new team, opportunity to kind of play high-level professional soccer without doing, millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of leap.
That's exactly right. And I think, look, even though, everybody quotes $500 million for San Diego and MLS, but even the reported, the published fees for Division II USL Championship, 15-20 million. That's a big bite, just to get in, right? And that's just to get in the door. And then you got to find a stadium situation that worked, which is key, and everything, and all the operating expenses. So, there's like 6 people left in the country who could do 500 million. And then, there's actually a very small group of people that could do 15-20 million. So League One is a much lower entry point, and it just creates so much opportunity. And look, it's a real league. It's full-grown men, professionals playing to win. We're nobody's farm team. We're not developing players for anybody else. We're developing for ourselves so we can sell to other people. And it's just to me, it's a pure football league, and it was so much potential. Now we knew Pro Rel was coming. but it wasn't as defined as it is now. And so that's just pure upside for us.
That's a great note. I love that. And I know a lot of viewers like the developing players for your own right, for your own community, for your own club, rather than hopefully they do well and we send them off to some other place out of town. So you are in second place in the league in your very first season, just a couple points off the very top spot. So tell us about your player pool. Are they local talent?
Well, we do have quite a bit of local talent that we're developing in our academy. We've gotten some guys on the field, getting some minutes for some young guys. That's going to take time, and so we really took advantage of the 7 internationals, which add huge depth and quality that you really have to have. But I would back up a little bit and say, really, it's the team. So Nehemiah Blanco, who's our general manager, came from Central Valley Fuego. He's just done an incredible job. Our head coach, Brian Claben, whom I think is a genius and overlooked. And there's a whole story about him that I could write a book on someday. I think
he's got some history, John.
Yeah.
He's got some history.
Yeah.
His brother is not a fan of mine. I'll just put that out there, but let's keep going.
Yeah. I just think he's an extraordinary guy. And I think he's just done an amazing job. And he put this team together along with our sporting director, Zaki Tahari, who's playing a little bit of money ball in the background. And they just put a hell of a squad together. And they, Brian has just been named coach of the week. It's just a really unique story. But Brian has been a well-kept secret, but he won't be anymore.
I want to ask you about so you identify this community. You've got the stadium sort of ready to go. I mean, obviously you're making it a soccer specific venue, which I am curious about that process. But when we talk to guys who have started, people who have started new clubs, I'm always curious about the stuff that like we talked to Michael Hitchcock about his amateur teams, but there are amateur teams that are marketed. So there's this thought process that goes into how do you image the team, what's the approach, and he talked a lot about connecting locally. And I'm curious, when you were conceiving of AV Alta, were you thinking beyond the Antelope Valley, or was this very specific about connecting to that community? Did you need to think beyond? Did you need to think globally or regionally or anything beyond just your location?
No, I was pretty local in my approach, and I think that's the key. So again, you have a community that's overlooked and a little bit disrespected, and they don't have anything of their own, right? And so I had one potential investor say that you have to put Los Angeles in the name of the club. And I'm like, no, man, you're missing the entire point. Like, that is absolutely the wrong approach. This is all about Antelope Valley. I had a designer that said, you've got to design your jersey so it'll sell internationally. And I'm like, no, I don't. I mean, I got to sell tickets is what I have to do. And nobody in England is buying a ticket. So now our logo is really cool, and we've gotten some international sales and stuff, but it's de minimis, right? So it's all about the AV. We did focus groups, and we asked them what was important, and they told us, and we incorporated all of that imagery and symbolism into the name and the logo and the colors. You guys know Portland, Maine has just done an extraordinary job, in an extraordinary market. But for those guys, we would be leading the league in every category of revenue and ticket sales and merch, and pisses me off that I'm always second place to them. But they're great, and they're great guys too, which makes it even worse, right? So I think we nailed it. If you include Bakersfield, Hesperia, Victorville, and Santa Clarita, there's 1.3 million people in our market. Now 500,000 are in the Antelope Valley proper. But the high desert of California and a little bit of the Central Valley is 1.3 million people. And ultimately, I'd like to see Bakersfield and Victorville get a team. I'd like to see Santa Clarita get a team. But for now, that's our market. It's plenty big enough. And so if someone wants to drive it from LA, God bless. But that's not the market.
So it seems like the highlight that kind of put AV Alta on my radar, my first eyes on, was there's some incredible scenes at your Open Cup run. So that's the standout memory for me from afar. What has been the best moment so far, and what was your original year one goal?
Yeah, so crazy going to FC Dallas. I've seen that stadium on TV a trillion times. It's much cooler in person, by the way. And hell, we were in that game. I mean, it was 1-1, I think, at halftime. That was incredible. Beating Orange County, they did a really funny thing about like, where's Lancaster? And now they know where Lancaster is. Beating LAFC 2, we tied Oakland in the Jägermeister Cup, but we beat them in penalty. If you ask anybody who was there, we beat them in penalty kicks. And just all of it, just from the day we launched our brand, we had 2,000 people on Main Street watching us, show a 3-minute video about their brand. Sold out the inaugural 5,400. But my goals for year one was I'm very much focused on the business side, and I'm letting Nini and Brian really run the football side, and Zachy. But my goal for year was, I just said, look, guys, just win at home. Just win at home. And they've done that, but now they're winning on the road, and they're beating bigger teams. And we lost to Sacramento 1-0. We lost to Las Vegas 2-1. We're punching way above our weight. For me, that's just icing on the cake, right? Because my whole thing is like, look, we have to sell tickets when we're losing. So, and someday we'll have a bad season. So, to sell tickets when we're winning, that just makes our job easier.
Obviously, having a winning season in your first year is a nice platform for all of those things. We obviously have to ask you, John, because this is the regular conversation now when it comes to USL. It's about the intent to start a first division league. It's about the intent to bring promotion and relegation. And while I know there are lots of things for the league to get done between now and those things being realized, I'm curious what your thoughts are about where AV Alta fits into all of that.
Well, I think we can definitely, with all due respect to the championship, and those guys were fantastic in terms of voting for Pro Rel, because they had to take a leap of faith that it would be good for them, even though if you look at it, specifically, it may not be good for them in the short run, right? But where are we going with that one? Sorry.
Promotion and relegation for you.
Pro Rel, look, it's so different in the U.S., right? Because if you get promoted in England, you get all this money, and it's pretty obvious goal. For us, it would be more about pride and slow, steady growth. And there's a leap of faith that if we get promoted, there'll be money, that we'll find some money there, because we'll have to spend more on players. It's not an obvious economic win, but it's a moral victory for sure. And then once you put someone in a competition of, well, we want to win the competition. And if we win the competition, we get promoted, that can't be a bad thing. Like, the money will come somehow, some way. But really, I didn't start out saying, oh, I'm going to get promoted and I'm going to get to the first division and I'm going to buy 5 more clubs and I'm going to be multi-platform. I didn't think like that. I just thought, like, this is a community that needed a team. We have to be here forever, right? So we have to find a long-term sustainable business model, which I think we found mostly through our stadium economics. And so again, Pro Rel is more like, hey, that's fantastic and it's great for the league. But it wasn't really, I didn't get into saying, hey, I'm going to promote this team up and be a first division team.
Yeah, you are in second place in USL 1, so I'm not quite sure. Obviously, it's not set up yet how many teams would go up with that. If it locked in tomorrow, would AV Alta be ready to make that jump?
We would absolutely be ready. I mean, on the field, no question, we're ready. I'm just a fan of our team. I love watching us play. I don't know if you guys have really watched the match, but the way we possess the ball is just crazy, and the skill level. And people say, well, you can't play like that unless you have the skill. I mean, we don't have the players that Barcelona has, but we're playing like that. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it all plays out.
Interesting, though, too, the long season runs all the way until the end of October. And funnily enough, you mentioned Portland Hearts of Pine. That's your final opponent of the season.
Yeah, they're great. They tied us at home. Well, we went back there and beat them 2-0 on the road, which was that was kind of a signature win for us. But they've got they have all the right pieces in place, and I think, and as I think we do, their market's incredible. The way that market's responding, we're doing extremely well. We're averaging 4,400 a game. That's going to go up, I think. But it's incredible what they're doing with the fan support that they have.
John, let me ask you a pretty wonky question. And we had somebody in the chat earlier saying, the number of teams being added to League One. He says, I hope they can reach regionalization eventually. Now, obviously, I think just because of the size of our country, it makes a lot of sense to think regionally in terms of how things are organized. I imagine from a financial perspective, that would be a big thing for a club like AV Alta. I mean, you're talking about playing Portland Hearts of Pine. That is a very long trip for you, and I'm sure costs quite a bit of money. So, is that something you think is important? Because as great as it is to have a third division like USL League One, spread out all over the country with those kind of revenues makes it difficult.
Yeah, it's immensely important. Look, there's rumored to be 7 teams joining the league next year, would get us to 21. And the more teams, we have, the more likely we are to regionalize. We're still very light on the West, and the West is big, right? So like we're getting Boise, Idaho, that's still a 3-hour flight. So regionalization is a particular challenge for us. It's going to be a while before, even if they go east-west, we're still going to do a ton of travel. So we have to bite the bullet on that for the foreseeable future. The great thing about the Jägermeister Cup and the U.S. Open Cup is we got to play Orange County, Monterey, Sacramento, Oakland, and Las Vegas in our inaugural year, and that helped a lot. And those were, with the exception of the U.S. Open Cup, those Jägermeister Cups, they kind of fit into your regular schedule. It'll be completely different next year with all these new teams, but just being able to play those regional teams in Division II has been a huge win for us.
One question I wanted to ask you. You mentioned training. You guys are located out in the desert there, very hot in the day, cold at night. In the Club World Cup, some of the coaches complaining about not being able to train due to the conditions. So what advice would you have for them?
For those guys, they're not going to take advice from me. So a couple things about our stadium, it's fully converted now. It's beautiful. The city did an amazing job. I mean, it's a proper football ground. You'd have to see it to believe it, the way we squared it off and made it into a football stadium. We're the principal tenant. We control the schedule. We have the front office. We're there 365 a year. We have home clubhouse, away clubhouse. We train there in the morning, and we play at night. So we all of our games are Saturday night, 7:30. And then we kick off at 8:00 in the summer. So right now we don't even kick off until 8 p.m. For all those reasons. And when the sun goes down, it's just beautiful. I mean, it's like 85 degrees and no humidity, and it's just beautiful night. So we're really fortunate with our stadium situation. It is unique, and it's absolutely key. If we didn't have the economics that we have on the stadium, I just don't know how you could. I don't know how you could get it done unless you were really, really wealthy and didn't mind losing money.
Seems to be the thing that trips up so many clubs. And, John, I've been doing this long enough that surrounding me in my studio here are many a club that no longer exists. And I, that is always breaks my heart. So it seems like you guys are on an incredible path. If the stadium is working for you, that is such a big deal. I'm very happy to have AV Alta added to this. I keep thinking of one more question, so I'm going to ask you one more question because Robert mentioned the climate and the heat and the there has been some talk about a calendar shift, maybe for Major League Soccer. American soccer has always run on the calendar that we use now for the most part. I know USL has launched a women's league that's doing it differently. Do you have any opinions about the calendar that we follow and whether it would be good or bad for clubs like yours?
Yeah, in the abstract, I would like it because I think that every time the American game gets more aligned with the global game, it's good. It works. If you go all the way back to the first MLS season when they're doing goofy shootouts and all this stuff, and the more you align with the global game, the better. However, we don't, League One, USL, I don't think we have the facilities to do that. So all the weather challenges that MLS has, but they're now playing in these $500 million palaces that have heated fields and covers and everything else. We don't have that in the USL. It's freaking cold in Lancaster in the winter. I mean, it's in the 30s at night, and I don't think it would be good for us. I really don't. And it's funny, the league in our first season, I kind of feel like they put all of our games in the spring and fall, and our summer was kind of light. And I got to say to the league, like, no, we want to play in the summer,
right?
Because we kick off at 8 p.m., sun goes down, it's fantastic. So as a theoretical matter, I'd love to align with a global calendar, but as a practical matter, it wouldn't work for us.
There you go.
Well, John Smelzer, founder and president of AV Alta, thank you for joining us and helping us put Lancaster, California onto the map here on Get to Know Your District.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. I'll send you, Jason, a scarf, and it won't go away. I promise you.
That's amazing. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
If you're tuned in now, and if you haven't hit that subscribe button, do so now. The more people that are subscribed, the richer this channel gets to give us more resources to be able to bring on guests like John and various other ones. If you want to look into our catalog, plenty of folks from teams across the country we've put onto the map. So hit subscribe now. And if you want to take your support up a notch, $3.99 a month makes you an MK Ultra. You get access to the Discord server, early access to videos, bonus content, which we might be making some today. And then you can also follow along on social media at MKickaround, X, Instagram, Blue Sky. You can write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And there's another way to support fiscally. It is ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. We got some specific targets to hit there with our fundraising. And one last note, if you like podcasts, Morning Kick Around is a podcast. Search for Morning Kick Around on your favorite audio platform.